Thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked you to avert your gaze. Welcome to the third in a series. I'm splitting the time with Professor Minash, who's going to talk about some issues that are hopefully timely in terms of where we are in the sequence of production. Right off the bat, I want to be crystal clear about grading, because there's some anxiety over grading. From assignment 2 onward, the weekly assignments are going to be graded on a 12-point scale, most likely. And it breaks down something like this. So internalize this so that you know how to interpret the 12-point scale. We need to do this because we cannot afford to do a direct translation that you might be used to, that anything lower than 80% is not an acceptable grade for a grad student. So everyone, we would be giving assignments. Imagine that anything below 80% causes trauma and concern about passing. So that would leave us with giving you 12 points or 11 points. Maybe if you really did badly, we'd give you 10 points. But that's not much to work with. We need all 12 of those points. We need to be able to give you 3 points in order to give you the feedback that we need to give you. We need to give you that feedback undistracted from the trauma that it might give you. So when you get 3 points out of 12, pay attention, talk to your friends, read the assignment, ask the instructor. When you get 6 points out of 12, it's not an F. What is it? It's a B. You're fine, right? But work on the assignment. Also go back, read the assignment, talk to your friends, talk to your instructor, right? Is that okay? Can we trust you to not be anxious, overly anxious? Can we give you grades that explore the full range of possibilities? Thank you. This is the deal we're looking for. As you will recall, we've reviewed all these things. There's a sequence of production, and we are in the midst of this sequence of production. The main focus of this course is the discourse review chapter. It's a very important piece. It basically says, hey, world, these things that I'm doing here in this thesis, these design tests, they don't come out of nowhere. They come from the prior work of others. And believe me, I have looked deeply and taken very seriously the prior work of others to the extent that it helps me achieve what I need to achieve in this work. Okay? It is not, I read every book there has ever been written about climate change. It is not that. It is, I have looked at these handful, a very limited number of prior design projects. I have read parts of these 3 books, and I have read these 6 articles, parts of these 6 articles, only because it directly relates to my design criteria. This is not a place to impress us with your background knowledge. The first Earth Day was in 1973. It was attended by estimated 6 million. No, save that for something. Maybe you read all that, maybe you know all that, but the purpose of the discourse review chapter is very tightly focused, and it's tightly focused for a reason. The more tightly focused the purpose of each chapter is, the easier it is to write. So who loves to write? Okay, you are weird. It is not normal to love to write. Who has ever not hated writing for brief moments? Have you ever had the experience of not hating yourself, not hating your life, and you just spent an hour writing? So many of us have had that experience. I suspect you've experienced it too. I think you have, even if for a fleeting moment. If you think back on what were the attributes of those fleeting moments when writing was not horrible, the attributes of that condition are probably that you had this feeling like it was writing itself. The words were coming to you. You weren't struggling with every word to find every word. It was just kind of happening. It was kind of flowing through you, right? That can happen. You can increase the likelihood of that happening by producing a few conditions. The most important condition that leads to the sense of the writing is happening through me. I don't know. I lose track of time. The words just seem to come to me, and it seems to be the right words, and I don't second guess everything. I just write. It probably has something to do with the purpose of this word that just came to you. The purpose is obvious. There's really one good word, or it's good enough. There's one purpose. This is the word that serves this purpose. This is the sentence that does the job. This is the paragraph that does the work that needs to be done at this part of the larger context. This is the topic that needs to be handled in order to support the rest of the chapter and the design work that follows. We start with your design work because your design work is very demanding in a very specific way. It matters. The success or failure of your design work hinges on whether or not you are directly tapped into these forces and how they work through architecture. So the intensity and the specificity of that requirement, we held on to. That's a precious thing. You can't write whatever you want. You can't just write whatever comes to mind. There's a very specific paragraph that is necessary to reinforce and clarify and support the design work you're already doing. So looking carefully at the design work and thinking, what's the paragraph that supports the design criteria that is driving the design work? That's how you get a clear purpose for every paragraph. And then it's more likely that the paragraph is going to come through you in a very clear way, because it's very clear when it's working and when it's either supporting the development of the criteria or it's falling short. The clarity of that is what makes writing easier. If not pleasant, it's at least easier. So that's why we keep coming back to your design testing as the root of everything else. So you did the discourse review chapter outline. Congratulations. You probably have insights now that you didn't have last week when you submitted that outline. Revisit your outline, revise it, and choose a section, probably the section that feels most important or most obvious or most central to what your design work is. Identify that one item on your list of criteria and choose the evidence that is associated with that criteria. And now work your way, organize that evidence in chunks, paragraphs, and work your way through that evidence. We saw last week, and in this week's exercise, we developed our skills at taking one piece of visual evidence and developing a paragraph that emerges directly out of that visual evidence. Congratulations. It looks like you guys did a great job in that. We're going to now turn our attention to this second type of paragraph for developing an understanding out of visual evidence, this time multiple points of evidence. Did that one, did this, did all this. The multiple items of visual evidence, we look at multiple items for the purposes of comparison. So here's a very simple paragraph. It uses evidence that you are all familiar with because you took a very good History Theory 2 course several years ago. And so this is an example of gathering 6 bits of visual evidence in pairs. So we see in the top left a view of this corner window from the Villa Savoye, Corbusier, and then you see the plan view. Right away, you notice there's a problem. The plan view is inaccurate. Obviously, that is not a proper drawing of that condition. Sorry, I didn't have time to redraw it. But in the next draft of this paragraph, I will redraw this evidence to properly represent that corner of Villa Savoye. The second one in the middle is The Shorter House by Gerrit Rietveld, 1924, in the view from the outside the window, and then the plan view. And then the final one is the Barcelona Pavilion, 1929. It's all there in the caption. It's all there in the caption so we don't have to burden the paragraph with all of this information. We don't have to list the architect, the year, the name of the building, who the client was, what's the location. That job is taken up by the caption, so the writing is unburdened of that task, and we can get straight to the point. So my first sentence introducing this topic is what it is. It just does a certain thing. Let's look at the window, the corner window. Now here's the translation, these 6 pieces of visual evidence. I try to capture it in one sentence. Where structure is integrated into the sidewall at Villa Savoye, it is offset from the corner at the Schroeder House and removed entirely from the wall plane in the Barcelona Pavilion. One sentence that works through a bunch of visual evidence in order to bring us all up to speed on what is at stake when we design our corners at these points. This is a moment of truth in what we anticipate will be in chapter 3. And then we follow it up in ways that support the development of the criteria. So this is an example of the second type of paragraph that we do with visual evidence. Any questions about this? I mean, it's hopefully pretty familiar. You guys do this, you do it well. The next 2 types of paragraphs, I don't have examples. We're not going to go in depth, maybe in the future. This one, the one source, the reframing, this is the type of paragraph that dominates in the past, that has come to dominate our discourse review chapters. And it's inappropriate to write paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, where we say, Malgrave wrote this in Cognition of the Flesh, in Thresholds 24. And here's a book report in one paragraph of what he wrote. Next paragraph, here's what Gaston Bachelard wrote in Poetics of Space, one paragraph about that. And then on in the same vein, paragraph after paragraph, here's what Johanni Palasma wrote in the introduction to whatever it is he wrote. You're asking, these are your notes. This is not a discourse review chapter. These are your notes to yourself. You read these things, you took notes on it, you summarized it in a paragraph. ChatGPT could do that. We don't need you to do that. Thank you very much, but no thank you. You're asking the reader to do too much work. You're asking the reader to draw the connections between each of these sources. Instead, you need to produce more more paragraphs that take these multiple sources and you say, Kenneth Frampton, which in the footnote we see is his tectonics of cultural, what is it? Culture of Tectonics book, 1995. We see all that information in the footnote. So all you say in the paragraph, Introduction to the Tectonics of Culture, Studies in Tectonic Culture. So all you do in the paragraph is you say, where Frampton points out Semper's use of stereotomic and the tectonic, Schmarso is emphasizing space, period. And you don't go into the name of anything because that's all in the footnote. And then you go on with that. You have one footnote per sentence, and you might have multiple sources in each footnote. And by the time you get to the end of the paragraph, which the purpose of the paragraph is for us to understand how people think about the expressive quality of the materiality and the physical reality presence of materials connected together versus the experience of space. This is the job of the paragraph, is to say there's experience of physical reality, physical form, and then there's the experience of space. That's the job of the paragraph. You do that very quickly, moving through 7 sources in 4 footnotes in 6 sentences. And that's a paragraph that is doing the work that we need done. In the instance that you have a paragraph with one source, the kind of thing that that paragraph is well suited to do is to take the ideas of someone in one source and reorganize it and reframe these ideas so that it is ready to be applied to your design work in the following chapter. So this is the type of writing that we're hoping you will do in this assignment that is due next week. We want you to revisit your outline, revise it, choose a section, reorganize your evidence, maybe fill in some gaps, look in the library, look online, figure out what is the evidence of the prior work of others that is most useful and most specific to what you're doing, and then take a shot. Just sit down. Maybe it's a snowy day and studio's canceled. You just glue your butt to the chair, start at the beginning, just write your way through, just sit there. Don't let yourself be distracted. Drink lots of tea and stay hydrated. Go to the bathroom so your brain has a chance to clear, and just write as much as you can. And what we expect from our own writing experience and the experience of students who came before is you're going to end up with lots of writing, and that's great. The right strategy here is to write in a way, write freely to get everything down that you need to get down, take a break, come back later, and look at it with fresh eyes, and now sharpen it, get it down. The discourse review chapter is typically 3,000 words, give or take, lots of illustrations. On top of those 3,000 words, there's another several hundred, maybe several thousand words in the captions and the footnotes. But the main text is around 3,000 words. That's not a lot. And so we write a lot, and then we revise, refine, we sharpen, we hone it, and we get the word count down to where it says what it needs to say. It doesn't say anything it doesn't need to say. And here's an example of what a page layout might end up looking like. And you'll notice something. You know, I'm a designer, and I don't like the way this page layout works. Do the captions really have to be so long? The answer is no. And so let's look back here. Do you see this paragraph here? Let's see. This caption Oh my God. Do you really want us to write a caption that's that long? What's in this caption? It's the main idea, is the first bit. The second bit is identify the work shown. Take credit for any alterations that you have done to the visual by putting your own name and rights tag. Then there's the image sources. The image sources in a caption like this are too much for the page layout to handle. The part in pink, we invite you to relocate the image source information to the back of your thesis book so it doesn't overburden the layout of your pages. Does that make sense? All of this and more is explained to you in the thesis specifications. Do you remember what that guy said that time in CEIS when we were talking about captions? No, I don't remember either. Why don't we look it up together in the thesis specifications? It's all laid out there. It is our guide to how to make these types of choices. Okay. And with that, I think it's time to bring up our next presenter. I give you Peter Minash.
So what I want to talk about briefly in the few minutes that I have is a little discourse on sources, how to find sources and how to find the right sources that are actually relevant to your work and that you can refer to and find useful. One thing I want to say up front, and sorry, I'm going to brush through this, is that we're in the field of architecture. In architecture, we could argue it's sort of somewhere between a social science and a humanity, right? It's a social science in as much as we're organizing the way people live and go about their lives. It's a humanity in the sense that we are engaged with a history of the way people have done it, an aesthetics, right? Architectural writing, whether you're a historian or a practitioner, is within the field of the humanities, right? You're doing humanities writing. And this is different from social sciences writing, and it's different from sciences writing. So I want to briefly find, if I can, something. These are perfect carrots, and that's a long story. So I want to very quickly just show some stuff that I've been working on. So I decided just as an experiment to ask ChatGPT, I'm curious about public parks. So so find scholarship on public parks in America. So here's some things. Science conservation, national parks, etc. Here are some references. So this simple thing, find scholarship on public parks in America. I've given it nothing to work with. And what it spits back at me is health and well-being and social benefits, equity and planning, urban policy and access, right? All of these things are important. And maybe they'll be important to your research. But if you'll notice, all of these things are in the sciences or the social sciences. So if you follow this as the beginning of your research, you're quickly going to funnel into a research field, a research exploration that's not really as relevant to the humanities writing that we're trying to do. It might prove to you in this research that public parks are a good amenity for cities, right? And some social scientists have proven that. I think we already know this, right? We don't need a social scientist to tell us this. What we want to know is how architects have successfully done a public park. So, okay, let's be more specific. Okay, I'm doing pulmonary, I have a typo because I was talking into my phone, pulmonary research on the landscape of public parks in America. Find me some primary academic scholarship. So now suddenly respiratory disease comes up because I said pulmonary, not pulmonary. Okay, so, okay, and I corrected. I'm doing preliminary, but it's still on respiratory disease. So I'm like, okay. So, and scroll. No, stop. I want to start a new conversation. I'm doing preliminary research, public parks America. Okay, so now we're back on track. But sort of still back where we were. Unequal access, inequity, right? Accessibility, still in the social sciences. I still haven't told it that I want humanities work. What about more, again, typo, because I'm talking to do with landscape architecture? Okay, now we're in the classics of landscape architecture. Ian McHarg, again, Catherine Moore, because I said the word more, but that's a whole other thing. No, more as no. Okay. Anyway, so it's been a fiasco. We're getting somewhere. I meant to ask, what about more to do with landscape architecture? Okay, so now here we are. Garrett Ekbo, Ian McHarg, Classics of Landscape Architecture, and a bibliography. Can you build me a brief bibliography? 1950, 1984, 1969, 1971, 1984, 1980. Not quite what we're looking for yet, right? Still a little dated. Okay. Let's uh, let's nature out scope. How about landscape, public space, and civic engagement? Okay, now we're getting a little bit better. Still some stuff from 2001. And so, but then I noticed that when I start Googling these, it always brings me to a specific set of sites. And one of the big ones is archive.org, right? Because what GPT is going to gather for you is the stuff that it can find online, right? So things, academic journals in architecture, publications in architecture that are behind the firewall of your Wentworth IT libraries, ChatGPT can't find that stuff. So it can find you what's available online, which is always going to be in the general sense. Unless you have a very specific research question, then it might dig a little deeper. But you're going to hit a wall here. So I want to, in the 2 minutes I have, offer some sources. And please. Now let's just start with the document. And just kind of show different kinds of sources that architects use. Can you read that, or should I make it bigger? Bigger. Okay. And different types of sources. So first, architectural history, peer-reviewed journals. This is stuff like I publish in, right? Double-blind peer review. The journal sends it out to a reviewer. The reviewer doesn't know who the author is. The author doesn't know who the reviewer is, and they write back. So, for instance, JSAH, Journal of Architectural Society of Architectural Historians, Journal for Architectural Education, Architectural Histories, Gray Room, up into the year 2000, Assemblage were great ones. These are architectural historians writing critical humanities scholarship of the architecture of the past. Really interesting if you're doing it in academic into a precedent. There's some journals of historic preservation, built heritage, future interior. Yell out names, by the way, if I miss anything. There's some things, published by students, usually masters or even undergrad students, that are more general readership. And I can make these available to you. Thresholds, published by MIT. Columbia has the Avery Review. Yale has for years had Perspective. Online journals that are, again, maybe for slightly more of an online readership would be Places Journal, sort of generally academics writing in a more journalistic voice for architectural audiences, and Aggregate Architectural History Collaborative, which is a mix of peer review and non-peer review stuff, which is available. Then there are presses that have a good architectural history theory catalog. Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Duke, Chicago. Zone Books is one of my favorite for not just architecture, but art and media. And then presses with good architectural design culture catalogs. Actar prints a whole bunch of good stuff in this. El Croquis, if you want to know about the complete works of Peter Zumthor, Rem Koolhaas, El Croquis has these volumes that are written by sympathetic authors. Princeton Architectural Press. And then there's any more of these? I can think of front row. Right, missing anything obvious?
It's good.
Yeah. And then there's general readership for architectural professionals, Architectural Digest, maybe less so, Domus. Well, what's replace progressive architecture? What do we read now?
What about Arc Daily? What do you say about that?
No?
Right? I'm not promoting it, but a lot of the sources tend to be Arc Daily.
Yeah.
Or Dezeen.
Yeah, Dezeen, yeah. I'm not promoting Architectural Digest per se.
Where's the student plan?
Um, Unhappy Hipsters, is that still around?
Never heard of it. Don't know
Oh,
that.
so Dwell. Unhappy Hipsters is a satirical site. I don't know. You should look it up. Okay. Lastly, so I gotta go. One more site for finding resources. If you find a resource that you can't find online, I know it said, I have not verified this. It said that there's places such as Library Genesis where there's pirated works, but I would, of course, endorse looking at Library Genesis for such a thing. Many schools block it, so unless you have some magical technology like a virtual private network, you probably couldn't even get to these things. But that's definitely not an option. I gotta go.
Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. So we will continue to try to offer timely in we want to insert these little bits of support in a timely way matched to the struggle that you are currently in. So if you have requests or insights to offer about what would be useful, what we have planned for next week will be, we know you're going to be writing for next Friday, presenting, writing to your colleagues in on Friday during Friday's class. And that writing will include captions and footnotes, please. Take a shot at it. How many people have used footnotes in class before? How many has never used footnotes in class before? You are such a liar. I was just checking because you have all been using footnotes at least since sophomore year, probably since freshman year, probably since high school. And it is part of the profession. We use Chicago Manual of Style in architecture. This is a code requirement. Think of it as like the building code. And we will be looking next week at how to succeed without being crushed. We will look at tools like Zotero that if you know what you're doing and you know what to ask for, and you know a few certain things, Zotero is one of those tools that can streamline the production so it doesn't interrupt with what we care about most, which is the design testing and thinking as clearly and sharply and critically as possible around our design testing. And that's what computers should do and so often fall short of. So that's what we have in mind for next week. So are there any questions about anything? Okay, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.